So for today's video, I have my brush collection for you guys. When I started off doing my makeup, I had maybe like 2 or 3 brushes, and as I slowly got more into it, I realized how important it was to invest in really high quality brushes, because that changes how your makeup applies and how it wears on your face so much. And I think that it's kind of hard to realize that when you're just getting started. So I thought that I'd run you through all of the brushes in my collection that I use, what my thoughts on them are, what I use them for, who makes them, where to buy them, how much they cost, all of that stuff. I'm just going to get into my brush collection. This is the Real Techniques powder brush. This brush is huge, but it's absolutely amazing. I love this because you can use it for so many different things. So for this brush, I'll use this for applying powder on my face, not necessarily for applying full coverage powder foundation, but just powder in general. And then I'll also use it sometimes to do a really nice kind of bronzy glow look to my face because this is such a big brush. I also like it because of the curve angle that it has to the bristles itself, because like I said, when I use this for bronzer, it really helps to diffuse the product in a really nice and kind of seamless way. This brush was from Real Techniques, like I said, and it's about $12 to $15 at Ulta. And all of the brushes that I talk about will be linked in a LUVOCRACY collection, which will be linked in the description box. This next brush is probably the first brush that I think I ever owned, and it's probably like 5 years old now, and this is the Clinique powder brush. This one doesn't have a specific name, but I have to say that if I was picking between this one and the Real Techniques one, I would definitely go with the Real Techniques one, and I'm going to tell you about that why now. This Clinique brush, although it was the first one that I picked up, it is definitely not my favorite brush because the bristles on it are not very soft after washing it so many times. Given this brush is about 5 years old now, so it's understandable why it's not holding up that well, and I should probably get rid of it, but the bristles haven't fallen out. So overall, Clinique brushes must be formulated really well, but I think that the quality of them is probably not what I would want to be applying to my face. But it is a really good beginner powder brush. This one was probably around $20, I want to say. And at the time, it was the only makeup brush that I had, so it was worth the investment to get something soft on my face. But like I said, over time, this one has kind of worn out. But it is still a part of my collection, and I do still use it. Because of the shape of this powder brush, it's not as dense, and it's kind of a little more flimsy than the Real Techniques one. I would not apply powder bronzer with this, but I would apply this for loose packed powder foundation. I got tongue-tied there. Another powder brush that I actually end up using more for bronzer than for powder is the Royal and Langknickle Pointed Dome Powder Brush. This is number C106. I picked up my Royal and Langknickle brushes from iMats, so just in case you guys are looking for that, they do have an online website, but I think at the time I paid about $8 for this. Now the reason why I like to go for this brush with bronzer is because of its shape. Again, it's dome shaped, so it really diffuses product in a seamless manner, but it's also a lot smaller, so it's not necessarily a brush that I will want to apply powder foundation with because it doesn't cover enough ground, and it kind of packs on the product to a smaller area. So I like this going underneath my cheekbones or on my temples because it covers a little less ground than a bigger brush would, but it still gives a nice kind of contour, but not a harsh contour kind of look. Speaking of contouring, this is the Real Techniques contour brush, and as you guys can tell, compared to the Royal and Langknickle one, it's definitely like half the size, if not smaller. And I like this one because, again, it has that rounded shape, so it does kind of diffuse a little bit, but it can give you a much stronger contour because it is a much smaller brush and you can really pack on the product in a smaller area. This brush came in a kit that was about $15 to $20 depending on what kind of sale you're getting it on, and I really like this Real Techniques brush. At the moment, I only have one blush brush in my collection, and that's because I actually gave my mom my Real Techniques blush brush. So right now the only one in my collection is the MAC 116 brush, and I really like this brush because you can just kind of swipe your blush on in a couple different ways. You can lie it flat like I have it now so that way it's widthwise, or you can turn it sideways so that way your blush isn't spreading quite as much depending on how big your cheeks are or how much blush you want to apply that day. I really like how much product this brush picks up in one little tap into the pot. I find that it's really great for picking up the right amount of blush and really diffusing it well, because it is a little bit flatter, but it's a little bit rounded at the same time. So you have nice balance with this brush. This one was probably one of the pricier ones. I got it at the cosmetics company outlet, but you can get it at a MAC counter. And this brush retails for about $25. I have the Sigma Tapered Highlighter F35 brush, and then I have the MAC 131 Duo Fiber brush. The 131 I believe is the old numbering, but it's just the numbering that's on the brush, so that's all I can tell you. This brush was from Sigma was probably about $15, and I want to say this one's going to be around $20, but again, it'll be in a LUVOCRACY account for the real prices. So let's talk about the differences between these two brushes. The Sigma brush obviously has a lot of more little fiber and bristles, whereas the MAC one is a lot less denser packed. It's a lot looser, and because it's duo fiber, it's a stiffer brush, but it'll only pick up a smaller amount of product. So when I'm going for a really light highlighted look, then I'll go for the Duo Fiber one. And if I want a really intense highlight, then I like to go for the Tapered Highlighting Sigma brush, because this one really swipes on, whereas this one you kind of dust on. Obviously you can use them differently because every artist kind of has their own way of using their makeup brushes, but that's just how I use them. This brush you can definitely use for a lot of different things. You can apply your blush with this, you can apply some bronzer with this, and highlighter if you want. This one is really just focused for highlighter, so this one's more multifunctional if you're looking to get more out of your makeup brushes. This first one is from Sigma. It's called the Tapered Kabuki brush, number F86, and this next one is from Royal and Langknickle, a much smaller brush, but this is the large round foundation C206 brush. So these brushes have a very similar kind of fiber or bristles feel, but this one is a lot smaller and a lot more pointed, the one from Royal and Langknickle, whereas the Sigma one is a lot bigger and a lot more bristles are in that one. Originally when I got this brush, I thought that I would use it for foundation or concealer underneath my eyes, but it ended up not really working for that. And then when I got around to getting this brush, I wanted to use it for bronzer, and you can also use it for concealer as well. What I really like these brushes for are for applying my cream bronzer with. So when I'm going for a more defined application of my bronzer, I'll use this guy, and when I want a more diffused look for my bronzer, I'll use this guy. And these are really great because they are meant for liquid products, so you can really easily blend out that cream bronzer, and you're not mixing it with your foundation brush. You have a separate brush for it, so it's a lot more cleaner and a lot better for your makeup product in general. Like I said, you can also use these for concealers, so they're really multifunctional, and if you want, you can also use it for your foundation. That's just what I use these for. The Royal and Langknickle one was again probably around $8. The Sigma one was one of the more expensive ones. I think it retails for about $22. I will never stray from these ever, ever, ever. And they're actually really affordable, so I love talking about them to you guys. And these are the Real Techniques brushes. So here I have the buffing brush, and here I have in my left hand the Expert Face brush. So there is a big difference between the two. The Expert Face brush is curved, whereas the buffing brush is just a pure circle. And the Expert Face brush is more oblong. Again, the other one is a pure circle, and this one's a little bit flatter than this one. And by this one, I mean the buffing brush is flatter than the Expert Face brush. So, talking about these two brushes together, I really like these both for foundation. They're both amazing at liquid foundation. If I'm going for a full coverage powder foundation, then I do like the buffing brush more. These brushes are expertly made. I love how the bristles hold up. I've never lost a single hair on either of these brushes. And they're really soft to your face. They blend out foundation seamlessly, and when I say seamlessly, I mean like airbrush finish to your makeup. I really like both of these. This one was about $12. The Expert Face brush was a single brush. The buffing brush came in a kit with the contouring brush that I showed before, and the next brush that I'm going to talk to you guys about. So these are my two foundation brushes. I have the pointed foundation brush from Real Techniques as well. This brush I was really confused with when I got it in a kit because the buffing brush obviously seemed like it would cover a lot more ground than the pointed foundation brush would, because this guy is so small, like he barely covers the tip of my nose. that's how small he is. For a long time I wasn't using him, and then I recently discovered that he was really great for applying liquid illuminator with, and you guys saw that in one of my previous videos. So now I'm using this guy whenever I decide to go for a really nice glowy skin look, because he can really blend in the liquid illuminator just spots on your face, and because it's smaller, it's a lot more precise. So I have 3 brushes here that are basically what I would recommend for concealer, but I don't use all of these just for concealer, so let's get started. The first one is my Sigma Precision Round P82 brush. This is a dual fiber little rounded precision brush, like I said, and what I use this for is for really applying concealer to any acne or dark spots that I have, or any areas where I really want to airbrush that concealer out. I recommend getting a brush like this to apply your concealer with, because it is a lot more hygienic than applying your concealer with your finger and blending it out that way. Also, I find that this is much better at concealing blemishes than just patting it on with your finger, because when you're using your finger, you really move the product around, whereas if you use a brush like this and you just kind of stipple it or blend it really lightly around the edges, it actually gives you a lot more coverage than just packing a ton of product on with your finger. Moving on, I have the classic concealer brush. This one is by Royal and Langknickle. It's the Shade and Conceal C211 brush. This brush is really good, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I find that it was kind of hard to apply concealer to blemishes, but it is really great for under the eye or around the nose. But you could also use this brush for any cream eyeshadow products. And the Sigma brush was about $15, and the Royal and Langknickle, again, probably around $8. Then, to finish up, I have the Real Techniques Deluxe Crease Brush. So this is technically for your eyeshadow, but I see the girls who created this makeup brush line use it a lot for their concealer, because it's a really great kind of buffing brush, because it is dual fiber and really densely packed with fibers. But what I actually use this one more for, because I am using my Sigma brush, which is basically the same for my concealer, I like to use this one for eyeshadow products. So I will either use this to pick up some cream eyeshadow, or I really like this also to really contour my face with my cream bronzer, or with any kind of bronzing product that you're going to blend out with a bigger brush later, because this is a really precise brush. This one also came in a Real Techniques kit, so the kit was probably around $20, and that's the only way to get this brush. Yeah, so I have 6, some of them are duplicates. I'm gonna get right into them to talk to you about them. This first one I just want to talk about because I absolutely hate it. I have no purpose for this brush. If you guys can think of something, let me know. This is the Bobbi Brown Eye Blender. It's just way too loose. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell like how freaking soft that is. This does not blend out your crease whatsoever. It's really not good for getting a specific kind of application, because it just like pushes apart so easily. It's such a soft brush and I really like it, and nothing against Bobbi Brown here, but just this brush sucks. And this was like $16 I think at a cosmetics company outlet store. Definitely apply yourself for a good blending brush. That sounded so weird. But I'm going to move on to the brushes that I really like. I'm going to talk about the MAC one first. This is the MAC 217 brush, and this is the classic brush that everyone talks about and everyone uses and loves and stuff like that. This brush, along with the dupe for it, which is the Sigma Blending E25 brush, are really great at applying product into your crease or just going all over with your eyeshadow. They really blend the product out because, again, they have that curved top that I was talking about with my other brushes before, which really helps to diffuse the product. The bristles on both of these are very soft. They're very long-lasting brushes. This MAC one has lasted me probably 4 years, I want to say. And yeah, so I really like both of these. And then I want to talk about the difference between those two kinds of blending brushes, because those are a lot, they have more of an oblong kind of brush shape, whereas these have curved circular brush shapes. So these are both the Sigma Tapered Blending E35 brush. These are really great for blending out your entire eye look, so I wouldn't use these necessarily for applying a dense color, but if you want to go over with a neutral brown shade or your blending shade, these are really great for those colors. They also are really great for just blending out like a smoky eye, so that way you don't have any rough edges. I have 2 of these because I absolutely love this brush from Sigma. It's about, I want to say, $15 to $20. I would really recommend these. They're cheaper than the MAC ones, so I would go for these over that. And the last brush I'm going to talk about is actually my newest and my favorite brush of the moment. This is the Sigma Diffused Crease E38 brush. So it's a much smaller brush than the other blending brush. It's a little bit shorter, and it's actually a bigger brush, and it's a little less dense than the other ones. I really love this because you guys can tell that I have smaller eyelids, and it's really actually hard to apply product to your outer crease, and I found that if I went for a small pencil brush, it was too packed on, it wouldn't diffuse enough, and if I went for a bigger brush, it was too blended out. So I finally solved that with this brush because this one gets in there, but it also blends at the same time. So I really recommend this. I want to say this one was around $14. My only regret is that it's in black because I like the white bristles on my blending brushes just because I can see what color is already on there. But I really have been liking this guy regardless. The next 2 brushes that I'm going to talk to you guys about are from the Naked 1 palette and the Naked 3. Technically I should leave these out because they were free, but I'm sure that plenty of you have these brushes, so I thought I'd talk about them. Naked 1 brush I really don't like. It's too dense and it's really not that helpful unless if you're applying a foil product to your eyes. So if you're going to apply something with MAC Fix Plus or a setting spray like that to really pack on a pigment, then I actually like this brush, but otherwise I haven't gotten too much use out of it. And then I have the Naked 3 brush, which is a double-sided brush. And I really like the fluffier side to pick up product and pack it all over my eyelid. Again, this side, which is pointed and smaller than the brush that's in the Naked 2, I don't like as much, but I'm sure that would be good for applying things to your lash line or for packing things onto your inner corner. Then I have a Royal and Langknickle brush. This is the all over shadow brush C401. What I actually use this for is for applying my highlight to my brow bone because it is fluffier. It kind of diffuses the product a little bit more. I wouldn't use this all over the lid because it's too big, but I do like it for the cream shade that goes on my brow bone. I have 4 brushes here that were from a Real Techniques kit. The first brush is their brow brush, which I will either use this to apply my brow product or my blend out my lower lash line. I have a much smaller brush from them, which is the accent brush, which again I use to blend out my lower lash line. Then I have the base shadow brush, which is a duo fiber fluffy brush, which I'll use to pack product all over my eyelid for one neutral color. To finish up from that kit, I have the Pixel Pointed Eyeliner Brush. I've never actually used this, to be honest, but that's because I don't use gel eyeliner, but I'm keeping it in my collection in case if I ever decide to. Moving on, I have a Sigma Beauty Eye Shading E55 brush. This was a sample size brush, I believe, because it's pink. And I really actually like this for an all-over eye shading brush. I really like this because it's a little bit fluffier but not too big. It really packs on the color. Another sample brush, but again, I haven't used it like the Real Techniques one, is the Eyeliner E05 Sigma brush because, again, I don't apply cream eyeliners. I have a Royal and Langknickle smudger brush. This is a C420 brush. So I don't use this for its original purpose. I actually use this to apply highlighting shades to my inner tear duct or my inner corner. It's probably about $8 for that guy. And then from the Real Techniques collection that got me the buffing brush for my face, I have the detailer brush. This is actually a lip pencil brush. It's a really handy brush and it has a nice kind of pointed top, so it really kind of outlines your lips in a nice and clean way. I have the MAC 242 shader brush. I like this as a typical starting shadow brush. I don't use this anymore because I tend to like fluffier brushes now, but if you guys are looking for a good dense regular shading brush, this is definitely an excellent one. It's held up very well over the years and I really like it. And I think that is it. So I have showed you guys my whole brush collection. I hope that you guys liked it and I hope that you liked this video. If you want to see any other collection videos from me, just let me know in the comments down below and I will be sure to film it for you. And yeah, I think that is it. My makeup collection is coming soon though, so if that's the collection you're looking for, that's on its way. So I will see you guys in my next video. I love you so much. Bye!